Welcome back guys to another Diabolo lesson for beginners. So assuming you had followed the entire series, which consists of 2 videos actually, then congratulations, because this means you have managed to start up the Diabolo as shown in the previous video. If you haven't, please refer to the previous video in order to see how it's done. Okay, in this video we're going to talk about a bit about controlling your Diabolo, and then a few safety precautions, because if you need to play at home and stuff like that, you need to be careful not to break things, okay? So, alright, about controlling the Diabolo, the basic thing about control is that the Diabolo does not always remain at the same position, okay? You may notice that the Diabolo sometimes, if you play like that, will spin like this, or it may even wobble like this. You need to be able to counter those 2 motions in order to be able to play effectively and for a long time. Okay, so the first one is actually the most simple one, is when the Diabolo actually turns like that. Okay, you will notice that sometimes this happens. It is because of the movement you're giving it, the spin you're giving with the whipping motions and stuff like that. They make the Diabolo sometimes turn. It's going to do it really slowly, it's not going to turn fast, but you need to keep up with it. So how this is countered is pretty easily. You just have to remain behind the Diabolo like this. You don't have to face it like that, so you can see here where the string is placed. You need to face it like that, so whenever it turns like this, say, you place yourself like that. If it turns like this, you just place yourself like that again. And so you never lose control of it when it turns right and left. Okay, so the most basic thing though that many beginners encounter is the Diabolo wobbling either to the front or to the back, to the right, okay? And you need to be able to fix that, because if you don't and the Diabolo keeps spinning, it might get tangled with the string, and that is really not cool, especially if you're a beginner. This is going to happen a lot and it is frustrating, I know. Maybe some of you have already encountered this on your efforts to start up the Diabolo. Okay, so I'm going to show you a simple way to counter this thing. What you actually have to do, I'm going to put the Diabolo close to the camera so you can see, is when the Diabolo wobbles, say, here, you need to do something to pull it back. It's like if you had your hands, you would want to do that and correct it, okay? So this is what you're going to do with the string, but not with both strings. You're going to use the string that is an extension of your good hand. In my case it is the right, of course, so for left-handers it's going to be the left. So what you need to do is you need to use the string as an extension of your good hand and correct the Diabolo. So I'm going to show you a bit how it's done. I'm going to make it wobble on purpose and then show you how this is done. Okay, so we've got Diabolo spinning and now I'm making it wobble to the front on purpose. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my good hand a bit to the back and continue the whip-like motion. As you see, the Diabolo is corrected. Okay, now I'm going to deliberately making it wobble to the rear, and I'm going to show you how it's done. Okay, so now it's wobbling a bit. What I'm going to do is pull my good hand to the front and it is corrected. Alright, so this is basically what you need to do. Use the string from your good hand as an extension of your hand and then correct the course of the Diabolo. What you need to keep in mind though is you don't want to make it too sudden, okay? Sudden moves are not going to solve your problem faster. On the contrary, once you start correcting the problem, it doesn't matter how slowly you do it, once you start correcting it, it is for certain that the Diabolo is not going to get tangled up on the string, okay? So once the Diabolo is wobbling here, if you start slowly correcting its course, it's going to correct itself slowly. If you leave it like that, it's going to get tangled. But if you try to do a sudden movement, putting the string too far, it may get tangled again. So please keep in mind that you need to take your time with it. You don't have to rush. Just doing it slowly is okay. The Diabolo is going to correct its course. It's not going to get tangled as long as you have started solving the problem. Doesn't matter how fast or how slowly you do that. Okay, so now for a few safety precautions, just for reference, you need to keep in mind that the Diabolo is spinning. The spin of the Diabolo is, of course, the same that you did when you started it on the previous video. So since we're doing it, in my case, from the right to my left, the Diabolo spins from the right to the left. That means that when you toss it to the air or it bounces on the floor or I don't know, whatever, when it hits the floor, it's going to follow the same exact movement. So, since I'm playing and giving it a spin from my right to my left, when it hits the floor and bounces, it's going to get from the right to the left, so it is going to go something like that. So if you play in a house and you have breakable objects in front of you and stuff like that, you need to keep the Diabolo in such a way that if it falls on the floor and bounces or anything happens, it will not hit on a breakable object. You need to play it and have it, let's say, against a wall. So this one, on my case, this would be a nice position for me to play, because if I'm using this motion and I'm going to show it to you so that you know what I'm talking about. Okay, let's say I'm playing like that. If it falls to the floor, it's going to hit the wall and not a breakable object. So this is something you need to keep in mind as well. I think this is it for this video. I'm going to see you on the next tutorial, so until then, have fun!